Glen Eira. We're very much looking forward to our second live tour with David. David did a superb job at our first tour for Caesarea. So we're looking very much forward to Masada today. And I'd like to thank again our sponsors, Tommy and Izzy Jacob, for making this possible, and to Shimshon Marom for managing all the tech side. So, David, it's all yours. Go for it.
Okay, Shavua Tov, Melbourne. Can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
Loud and fantastic. So it's a beautiful Sunday morning, 9 a.m. And instead of leaving early in the morning from my home, it would have taken me about 3 hours to get here. My wife and I had a lovely weekend at one of the resorts at the Dead Sea. So again, with all that's going on in the country and the closing down, the hotels are still open. So we had a lovely day by the Dead Sea, floating in the water, bathing ourselves in mud. It was truly a delightful day. And then after touring today, we're going to go to the Ein Gedi Springs and enjoy the beautiful waters there. So this is meeting number 2 of our 3-part series. We've already toured Caesarea. Today we're at Masada, and then on Wednesday, 8 o'clock your time on Tisha B'Av, we'll be in Jerusalem. And as we discuss, these 3 are connected. I'm just going to give you a brief summary. The Romans are in control. A young Jewish man, Herod, volunteers to be in charge. He is given the title King of the Jews. To keep the Romans happy, he built them that amazing port that we toured the other day. And to keep the Jewish people happy, he renovated the amazing temple. And that's the second temple that we weep for on Tisha B'Av, and that's what we'll be seeing on Wednesday. And the third side, and also connected, is Masada. So Herod is trying to keep the Jews happy on one side and the Romans happy on the other side. And as we all know, you can't dance at 2 weddings on the same night. So he comes up with a plan to create a fortress that if either of these 2 groups get fed up with him, he can run and hide here. So that's chapter 1 of the whole story of Masada. We're going to be seeing remains of Herod's palace. But as we all know from all the history books, Herod dies a sick old man. He never has to run up here and hide. We know exactly where he is buried. Only 10 years ago, they found the tomb of King Herod at a wonderful spot called Herodion. Perhaps one day I'll be able to take you there as well, just outside of Bethlehem, near Jerusalem, Herodion, the burial spot of King Herod. So he dies a sick old man, 4 BCE. And the mountain that we are on, that we're going to be exploring, is left vacant for years and many years. However, let's fast forward to the year 66 BCE. Starting in Caesarea, the Jews are revolting against the Romans, and that's the Great Revolt. And that finally ends up with, on the 9th of Av, the destruction of the temple. Jews are being captured, Jews are being killed, but a group of Jews called the Sireki, they run and hide up on Masada. So according to the historian Josephus Flavius, and that's all we know about Masada, this ancient writings written by a man, Josephus Flavius. And I'm going to talk to you a bit later on who he is. But he tells a story of about almost 1,000 people hiding up here in Masada. And they've got food, water, and other supplies up here. And they are doing quite well. However, the Romans want to get rid of all the Jews. So they come here, and they come here with 10,000 people, and they then make 8 camps around the base of Masada. And a bit like in the Hollywood movies, basically the message was, you're surrounded, come down with your hands up. But the Jews up here, they had supplies, they had the height advantage, they weren't going anywhere. So they are living up here, 1,000 people. And we're going to continue the rest of the story later on. But first of all, I want to sort of give you a little bit of a view where we are. So we're on the top of Masada. I'm keeping full in an inside chamber, which I'll discuss shortly. I'm going to switch the camera around so that you see the great views that we have. So let's go through this window. And we are now looking eastward towards the Dead Sea. You can see the Dead Sea, the mountains of Jordan below in the distance. And down here, we can start seeing some of the Roman camps. Gabby? We can start seeing the Roman camps. So there are all up 8 Roman camps. Just over there, you can see one. Other one's over on the other corner. That's the visitor center. And as well as the Roman camps, just in front of the large Roman camps, you can see a line going right around the base of Masada. This line is a 10-foot wall, which goes right around the entire complex. Now, down where those palm trees are is a car park. Normally, it can hold 100 buses. Sadly, with the situation today, it's empty. So it is really quite spooky to be up here almost on my own, but in fact, I'm not on my own. I have my assistant here. Some will recognize. It's my wife, Gabriella. She's waving. I don't think you can hear her, but she's saying hello. And Gabby has been very busy the last 6 months as an epidemiologist working on the corona crisis. So she's having a very well-earned break today. So we are in a chamber. Now, throughout, just above Gabby's head, you can see a black line. So throughout our tour in Masada, we're going to be seeing this black line. Anything below the black line is exactly as it was found by the explorers. Masada was first identified in the 1880s when explorers came up here, and this seemed to match the story. The major excavations were in 1960s. In the 1960s, led by the archaeologist Yigal Yadin. I know many people, including myself, in the 1970s, we all received the book, Masada, as a bar mitzvah present. I got 5 copies. And then I started handing them out to other bar mitzvah boys. So that was Yigal Yadin who did the major exploration here. So again, anything above the black line is recreation. Below the black line is original. And what do we see below the black line here? We are looking at spectacular frescoes. Frescoes, like in the Vatican in Rome, means painted walls. And these are the original painted walls of these chambers. The chambers that I'm in at the moment aren't the palace. These chambers would have been the offices of King Herod. These are the people who come up here, but this didn't happen overnight. It would have taken maybe 5, 6 years to prepare for it. So they would have been up here preparing this, and then they would have then stayed on if Herod had to come up here. And what's quite amazing, we talk about Herod and Masada, Herod and Masada. As I said to you, he died a sick old man. So there are some skeptics saying, well, he may not have even got up here whatsoever. He may not have ever set foot on Masada because he never had to run and hide here. I'd like to believe, and this is just my thought, that he may have come up here once or twice just to check on how it's going, maybe spend a summer up here to enjoy the views and the breeze. So we're going to now continue through the officers' quarters and then continue with our exploration of this magnificent World Heritage Site, one of about a dozen UNESCO heritage sites. So we have a second chamber, also with more spectacular pieces of the frescoes. And the colours have stood the test of time. Why have they survived? Because of the very dry air up here in Masada. So no moisture, no mould, they survived. And they would have been all buried in rubble because of all the rocks covering over. And then the archaeologists in the 60s would have found them, and they are standing as they were. So the colours truly are spectacular with the oranges, greens, and reds. Now, I don't know if you can hear it, but above us is Air Force planes flying over our heads. The Air Force have their major bases not too far from here, so you can often hear them roaring by. And if I see some, I'll see if I can track them with the camera. So we are now in the courtyard of these officers' rooms, and again, noticing the black lines. So from here, we're going to head up and continue in our exploration. One riddle I often ask people, how on earth did they get all of these boulders up here? Again, we are about 200 meters above the Dead Sea level, which is below sea level, very confusing. The Dead Sea is the lowest place on planet Earth at minus 450 meters. And Masada, we are at about 30 meters. So how did they get all of this rocky building material? And people start saying, well, pulleys, slaves, but we are on a big rock. So they were actually quarried out. So what we are looking at now is a large rock quarry where they took out the rocks to build the site. And because we have the corona, nobody around, they're doing a lot of maintenance, opening, so they're painting and preparing things. Archaeologists are working up here, preparing for next season. But today, it's quite spooky. I'm sure many of you have been here and you have hundreds of people wandering around. But today, there is my wife, myself, and the guy painting, and that's about it. So let's make our way up on our way. You all there? You can hear me loud and...
Yes, 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 we can hear you. Beautiful.
Clear?
Yep. You're just cutting off a bit now.
Wonderful tour guide, and she is, there is a chance that the reception up here does get cut off. So if by chance you do lose me, Julie is going to jump in and give you an audio guide. But hopefully we won't need you, Julia. But thank you for joining me.
I hope so. I enjoy your presentation.
Thank you, Julia. Okay, so we're coming to a area, a long corridor. Having grown up playing AFL, I know how long a kick is. So this corridor is about 35 meters long. And what we have here on either side of us are storerooms. Again, no black line. So this is exactly as it was found. And what we have here is almost 20 storerooms, long parallel, as long as the one I'm standing in now, which was cleared so we could walk through. But you can see the remains looking across of 20 storerooms, about 10 on either side. And here, archaeologists found the remains of 5,000 jugs. Now, I'm going to have slide number 1 come up, please. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. This is what the jugs look like. So they found here, again, archaeologists put jigsaw puzzles together. They found 5,000 jugs similar to this. And if we go back to the camera now, thank you, we actually still have one on display. I'm pointing at just through there, you can see one jug on display. So what we have here is 5,000 jugs full with grains, seeds, oils. So that's a little bit of a clue of what the rebels who come up here could use. They were using the supplies left over by Herod. Herod stocks this up, thinking that if he comes up here, he's going to have to stay here for the term of his natural life. Well, as I said, he doesn't have to come here, and that's all left behind. Now, when archaeologists came up here, they actually found seeds and grain, and they have been able to even grow things after 2,000 years. So all of that for the rebels to use. So the rebels have height advantage, and they've got food supplies left over by King Herod. What else do you need to survive is water. And water we're going to discuss a little bit later on, because it's quite an amazing an amazing story how they got water up here. My father, Jack, who's there, hi Dad, a regular on my Zoom tours, he's been to Masada, oh, I'd say a dozen times, and for him, his favorite thing is the story of the water. So he could tell it as good as me, but I'll be telling you the story about the water shortly. Now, at the same time, Herod's building Caesarea. He's building the temple in Jerusalem, and he's also building up here. So he's got lots of teams parallel doing major projects. Now, I want you all to imagine you are a worker for Herod. Where do you choose to work? So if you're not very Jewish, you'd say, oh, I'd be on Caesarea, working on the water edge, building theaters. If you were Jewish, you'd like to be a part of the creation of the great temple. And if you're a sucker, you get sent up to Masada, into the middle of nowhere, in the heat. So for those few people who were sent up to do this, they wanted to give them one bit of luxury from Rome. So there's no room for a racetrack. There's no room for a theatre. So what have they created to keep the workers up here? I'm sure you're all guessing, and I'll give you the answer now. A Roman bathhouse. So we're going to go now into the bathhouse complex. And this bathhouse was used most probably for the officers and the senior people here in Masada. So what we have here is a spectacular model, and we're going to tour the model of the bathhouse. And I always say to people, a bathhouse is a bit like a McDonald's store, because the idea of McDonald's was to make things familiar from place to place. So all the stores are basically the same, and all Roman bathhouses are pretty much the same. We start with an outer compound, which is got a canopy around, and it's in here. I'm going to go right in with the camera, and it's in here you would lounge around discussing Plato and philosophy, and you would also do some exercising and some stretching. And you can see the pillars, and I want you to remember the honeycomb floor. We're going to shortly see that. And then when you're ready to go into the sauna, the spa, you go in through 4 chambers. The first chamber with this beautiful floor of red and black checks and also frescoes on the walls. The first chamber is basically the dressing room where you get changed. And then you come in to a moderate temperature room where you get used to the heat. And from here, there are 2 entrances, one going to this side, one going the other side. From here, then you go into the spa. And this is the most spectacular. What we have here, like in the nice homes of Turak and South Yarra, we have an elevated floor. And here, hard to believe, but 2,000 years ago, they were heating the floor with hot water and steam from under the ground. So underground floor heating. As well as that, on the side here, you can see pipes. So they are heating the walls as well. So it is the equivalent of a sauna house of today. And then on the other side, here, there would be the bellows. They're burning the material and pumping it in. So from the hot chamber, after you have a good schwitz, get out all the poisons from your skin. Then you come into the moderate room. And then on your way out, you have a cold plunge in the cold plunge pool over on here. Okay, so last time I was in here, this is where I lost reception, but I'm going to see if we can have a little peek inside of it. But as we head in, I want you to notice the frescoes, not the frescoes, sorry, the mosaics. Remember the honeycomb mosaics in this courtyard. So this is the outer courtyard before we go into the changing room. Again, I think I'm just going to have a little peek because last time I got into a lot of trouble with my connection. So let's go through here and see if we do get a bit of reception, but I'm going to pull out quickly if I lose you. So this is again, I want you just to keep saying you can hear me. You
Yep.
and ahs.
Yep.
Okay, so this is the changing room. Way down black line, you can see the frescoes, and down here in the corner, you can see those black.
Yeah, we're losing you. We're losing you, David.
Mosaics. Lose you totally. I'm back. You got me back now?
Yeah, back now.
Okay, I'm backing out. So we basically got to see it all. I do want you to put up the next slide, please. So the next slide is a view inside the hot chamber. And as you can see very clearly, you can see the pillars supporting that artificial floor. And that's the level that you would be standing on. And that's the level that you stand on. And then underneath of you is where the hot steam and water is pumping in. So you can have that lovely hot sauna. So let's come back to me. Okay, I'm checking the time. It's now 9:22. We're running on time because we have an appointment with King Herod. And I never like to keep the king waiting. So we are now going to head up. And you can see a wall in front of us. That wall is a man-made wall. And that is the back wall of the royal palace. So let's make our way up to the palace. As we head up towards the palace, I want to show you the sign. Now, there's something peculiar. Anybody, can you guess that, Rabbi? What's peculiar about the sign? It says to the northern palace, not just the palace. So in fact, Herod the Great
Hello, we're losing you.
does not have one palace. He never comes up here. He has two palaces. One for the...
Hey, David.
Yeah, Julia, maybe.
Yeah.
Kiki.
Yeah.
for the winter. Okay, I'm going to make...
Okay, seems like he's making it. Okay, he's on the upper level of the Northern Palace, and he's walking towards a nice model and also the most beautiful view towards the north. Now, let me see what his focuses on. All right,
Can
this
you hear
is
me?
Model. Yeah, Dave, we can hear you.
Can people hear me?
Yep. Yes,
can.
we can hear you now.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, thank you for your help, Julie. Much appreciated. So here we are at the model of the Northern Palace. So what we have here is Herod's spectacular palace. We are up at the top level, and we're standing about here. And then below is a middle and third level. This is the artistic interpretation of how we believe Herod's triple level palace was. And we're going to go over and look at the balcony over here. Now, interesting is this round dome. When I first came up here, I was once told, well, that could be the ballroom. However, in the last 10 years, we're getting a better theory what the round structure was. Because on Herodian, where we find the tomb of King Herod, archaeologists found a round complex looking like this. And inside of that was buried Herod. Now, Herod was a paranoid madman. Okay, he kills his children, he kills any resistance, he even kills his wife Miriam because he was paranoid about her. But then he says that he regrets it and he mourned for Miriam. So this round structure in dimensions is very similar to the round structure in Herodian. So some of us are thinking perhaps this is a tomb representing his beloved wife Miriam that he killed. So we're going to be looking at the beautiful lookout, looking down at the three sections of the palace. So we are here up on the top, and we're going to walk over now to this balcony where my wife is sitting in the shade, enjoying the view. And again, we have our private Masada. So I am King Herod. This can be my Miriam. Gubby, you better be careful. I might throw you over the top if I'm King Herod. But no, I will look after Gubby. She's much loved and doing a great job on the Corona. So we are on the top of Masada, looking now north. And down below us are the remains of the round complex that I said may be the memorial to Miriam. And then lower down, there is another deck, and that's the third level. And just beyond there is a square, and that is another Roman camp. And then there's a trail which goes far, far out. And in the distance, you might see a dark patch. That's actual vegetation. The rest here is barely nothing with the Dead Sea. But that dark patch is the Springs of Ein Gedi. And the Springs of Ein Gedi is beautiful fresh water. We're going to have a dip there today, and with waterfalls. And today, water from Ein Gedi actually goes into bottles as one of the mineral waters of Israel. So that water supply in the distance, 20 kilometers away, could have been the water supply for the Romans who were camped below us. So they would have had ships bringing water on donkeys and horses over here. As we scan across to the west, you can see the cliffs and the high ground. And over there, you can see the largest camp. And it's from there the attack took place on this high ground. Now, I'm standing on Masada, and I can clearly see into that camp. So the rebels who were up here, they would see the fires at night. They could almost smell the food from up here. So they knew their days were numbered. But because they had that height advantage, they were feeling safe. So I want to tell you the rest of the story while I'm up here. So I'm going to switch the camera around. So the Jews are up here feeling quite safe, but they can see the Romans beneath us preparing for the attack. And all that I'm quoting now is from the books written by Josephus Flavius. Now, Josephus Flavius sounds very Roman, but in fact, he's not originally. His name is Yosef ben Mattatiyahu. So he was a Jewish rebel. He himself, in 67 BCE, at a fortress in the north called Yodfat, he surrendered, and they actually did a suicide pact there, or they did a lottery type thing, and he's the only survivor. And that's well before Masada. He survives, and to save his neck, he says to the Romans, hang on, I might be useful to you. I can read and write. And these are skills which were quite rare at the time. So he then becomes, he says he signs allegiance to the Roman Empire, changes his name to Josephus Flavius, and he becomes a Roman historian. He, in the year 70, soon after the destruction of the temple, goes off to Rome. And I'm going to harp on this because he is not an eyewitness on Masada. He tells the story of Masada. He writes the story of Masada in a book called The Battle of the Jews and the Romans many years after the event. And he tells a story that after the Jews were up here, the Romans finally are sick and tired and they want to attack. And they attack by building a ramp. Let me just zoom over, switch over. And the ramp we'll get better views of. But in that very corner over there, get my pointer from my assistant and wife, you can see over there the ramp. Well, the camera's reversed for some reason. So somewhere over there, you can see the ramp heading up. We'll be over there in a little while. So the Jewish people actually see the Romans building this attack ramp. So what they decide, they have a town meeting, and they say, the leader, Elazar ben Yair, he gathers the people around and he makes a very emotional speech. And this speech is in the book written by Josephus Flavius. It's about 3 pages long. a detailed speech that talks about Jewish values. And he says, finally, we will not die as slaves and have our wives raped and our children taken to Rome. We will die as free men. And they decide to do a Jonestown. For those who remember, everybody, a mass suicide. So everybody is ordered and agrees to killing their families. This is all according to Josephus Flavius again. So Josephus Flavius says that everybody kills their families, and then the last 10 men do a lottery. Can I have that next slide, please? I know you're in suspense. Where's that slide? Slide, please. Coming up. Thank you. So, Yigal Yadin, in his diggings up here, got very excited. So he came up here finding Masada, and he knew the story, and then he finds these pieces of stone. And these pieces of pottery, I should say, they're pieces of pottery with names on it. And one included the name Elazar ben Yair. So he said, well, this is proof to the story. I've found the puzzles. And he says this was his greatest find here on Masada. So these men did a lottery, each then killed off their families, and then a lottery was done, and Elazar killed the last 9 and then killed himself. So often I say to people, how many people committed suicide on Masada? People will say 950. I'm going to say no, only 1. All of those people were actually murdered and only 1 commits suicide. Let's switch the camera back to me. So this is all according to the story. And then Josephus Flavius says he knows the story because a few women ran off and survived, and that story got back to Rome. So if you're a schoolboy and you have to do a test and write an essay about Masada, to get 100%, you'll say everything that I've said. However, if you want to get bonus points, you will then continue and say, however, current academics believe that Josephus Flavius may have been telling a bit of a bubamaisis. We have no doubt that the Jews were up here and the Romans were below. But as we all know, killing oneself is against the Jewish belief. So what we are beginning to believe is, in fact, the Jews were totally outnumbered, 10,000 Romans against 900 Jews. And of the 900, if you take away the women and children, so there was most probably about 250 fighting age men. Reminds me, I'm going to have a drink. That's my wife's schlucker. It's very helpful, good to have when you're out in the field. So only about 250 people, men, who can fight. So obviously they were outnumbered. And we believe now today that the Romans come up here and within minutes they defeat the Jews. So why does he tell this bubamaiser about a mass suicide? Well, back in the day, he is in Rome with a Jewish soul, and he was presenting this sort of super fearless, brave image of Jews. So we are beginning to think that he is just telling a story. And why do we say that? First of all, we have in his writings, he talks about many other mass suicides. So it's not an original thought just up here. And in other writings of other people's, it was sort of seen as a sign of bravery. Also the language. He starts quoting this speech. And it's a 4-page speech that these women have remembered. Now, if you're a woman who's seen her entire family murdered 4 years later, do you think you're going to be able to dictate this to Josephus Flavius? If you paid me $1,000 to try to remember it off by heart, I would struggle. So today we are believing that, yes, we have Jewish rebels up here, but the Romans came up and defeated them all. So why is Masada such a symbol today in Israel? We have a saying in Israel that Masada will never fall again. We acknowledge that we lost this. But there's a very important saying, and I say this over and over again, and I want you to remember this. Yes, they won the battle, but we have won the war. So the Battle of Masada, I give to the Romans, 1-0. Yes, they defeated us up here. They killed the Jews, all 900 of them. However, the war we have won. And what war am I talking of? The war of survival. So today you go to Rome and there's nothing left of Roman civilization before that besides the ruins. But what we truly celebrate up on Masada is the survival of the Jewish people. We survived the Romans, we survived the Assyrians, we survived the Babylonians, the Crusaders, the Greeks. Later on, we've had battles with the Arabs, and we are here as a flourishing nation with 9 million people, a vibrant economy. So really, that's what Masada is about, a celebration of Jewish survival. Shkoyach, anybody there?
Yes.
Yeah, we're here.
Okay, so that's enough of my weekly sermon before we continue around. So I'm going to switch the camera around. Whew, get my breath back. Okay. Okay, so we're going to continue down day night before Tisha B'Av.
We're losing you.
Okay. So I hope David will be
Day night will be all together in full print.
David, you must move away. Okay.
Hotel, you got that?
We missed that, but sorry.
Hello?
Yeah,
Now,
okay,
we're
now
with you
we-
now.
Okay, I'm just promoting to send your prayers for the Kotel.
Yep, I'll put the email address on the chat so people can send confidential messages with blessings for themselves, their family, and David will put it at the Kotel during the tour on Wednesday night.
Thank you very much, Mindy. Okay, we're walking across now. This might be a bit challenging. We're now going over to the eastern side. Sorry, the western side. You with me, everybody?
Yes. Yeah, we are with
And-
you.
Thank you, thank you. I just need a reconfirmation all the time. Oh, there's
I
a
know.
stray dog. There's a
I
stray
know,
dog up on Masada.
Really? There was a cat when I was there.
Okay, so what I have underneath of us, I want you to focus down beneath. We have a water system. Now, what I haven't sort of harped on you, over on the west are the mountains of Jerusalem. So over in the west, we do get rain, but those mountains act as a barrier, and it very rarely rains whatsoever up on Jerusalem, up on Masada. So we have 1,000 people up here. What are they doing for water? And a part of the answer is here. We have this large cistern. How do I know it's a cistern? Because the sign says it's a cistern. No. There's better proof of it being a cistern rather than just a hole. First of all, there are the remains of stairs going down. And also, if we look deep inside, the walls aren't natural stone. They are covered with plaster. And plaster stops the water from being absorbed into the stone. So as I said, it very rarely rains up here. So how do they get the water? And I'm going to be showing you that secret very, very shortly. So we're just walking down towards. We can see across at the palace again. So we're coming down to a very, very special model, which will fill in the story of the water. So my assistant is getting ready here. So here we are, again, looking at the palace. Here's the 3 levels of the palace. We are up on this upper wall. And then across are the mountains. So my assistant will ably, over on that mountain over there, she's going to make it rain. So it is now raining in Jerusalem. Yeah, pour it on, pour, don't be shy. man-made aqueducts built by King Herod. Built by Herod. We have the water in 2 channels, and it is then being stored in the side of the mountain. You can see these small little holes. In fact, they go into cisterns into the side of the mountain. Each of those cisterns is about as the size of an Olympic swimming pool, and there are 12 of them. So there is tons or liters of water in the side of the mountain. And then in the olden days, there is a track going up the side of the mountain that donkeys bring water up. And it's this water that would have carved out Masada over the millions of years. So that was all set up by Herod. So what's the first thing the Romans who are camped over here say? Blow up the bridges, cut off this water supply. However, there must have been in the side of the mountain enough water still in storage that the Jews could access it throughout that period. So the Jews have water left over from the cisterns. They have also lots of grain and seeds left over from Herod. So they have plenty of things to survive on. Now we are seeing for the first time the ramp. And that's the ramp that where they do their final attack from. And we'll hopefully get over there, and I've got a few more slides. So we're going to continue around for another surprise. I've still got plenty of time. I hope you don't mind if we go over time, people. But I know Melbourne's in lockdown, so there's not much else to do. Hello?
Correct.
Yeah.
Hello? Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, good. So not much else to do rather than tour with me in
That's
Masada.
right.
So we're going to make our way around through a number of chambers to a very, very special room. And again, it's quite spooky to have a empty Masada, just me and a stray dog. Hello, doggy. See the dog over there? A stray dog in Masada. My wife might even give him some water, the poor pup. We have the dog of Masada. Oh. Yeah, Gabby's gonna give some water. Give the poor doggy some water. Okay, she's gonna just pour him a glass of water, so he's not gonna drown, dehydrate. Okay, let's continue with our tour from the stray dog. So the walls of Masada were built by King Herod as a defense system, and they are double walls. However, we have this large opening. We're going to make our way into this opening. And I'm stepping through. You can see the black line as we come into this chamber. Again, I just need feedback because this is where I lost connection. So just keep making some noises in the background. So we have a chamber with pillars. You see the pillars?
Yep.
Hello?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes.
Just say yep, a few more yeps. We have the pillars, and we
Yes.
can also see benches. We have a chamber, a big rectangular chamber with pillars and benches. I'm in Masada, and my darling wife,
Hi.
and my wife is in the ladies section, she's saying. So that's a bit of a clue. We are in what we believe is the synagogue. And this is a very special synagogue because I can say it is one of the, if not the first synagogue of the Jewish people. Because as we know in ancient Jewish life, everything's about the temple. But the temple has now been destroyed. So Jewish people, instead of doing sacrifices, start doing prayer. So this is a period immediately after the temple. So this is one of the world's first synagogues. Now, someone will say, well, it's just a place with pillars and benches. But then we find more of these throughout of Israel. But again, does that make it a synagogue? Not necessarily. Direction, we're facing west towards Jerusalem. And the icing of the cake to make us believe it is a synagogue is found in the rubble here. They found damaged tradition of the Gizrat, Torah, and Sidurim. We bury them inside of a synagogue. So this is one of the world's first synagogues, the Synagogue of Masada. And today, Chabad Arad often, if you request, do bar mitzvahs. So I'm promoting all of Melbourne. Once the virus is over, come up here. I'll help you organize a beautiful bar mitzvah here at Masada. Unlike when you're at the Courtyard where there are thousands of people, you can have a private event at this very, very special synagogue which celebrates Jewish survival. Now I'm just going to come around the corner. There might be a little treat. I'm going to come around the corner.
We're losing connection, Dave.
And
Dave is trying to let us see the chamber.
no, okay, so we're going to move out of the synagogue. Inside of that room, there is a Katav Stam, a rabbi who is writing a Torah scroll. Can you hear me still?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes, now.
Is he there? Is he
Can you
there
hear
now?
me? Can you hear
Is that
me?
right? Yes, we can hear you.
No, he's not there now. Unfortunately, he's not there now. He's not there now. I would have got him out to have a chat, but he's not there now. So I'm going to walk along through this central area. On the side, we have a special area called a Columbarium. I'm going to ask the slide to come up, please. The next slide.
Okay, well, David is walking towards the wall. I guess he would like us to see the ramp better. What you see now in front of you, Dave? Okay.
No, we're waiting for the Columbarium Slide to come up, please.
Columbarium Slide, okay.
Shimshon?
The Columbarium
Shimshon,
Slide.
next slide, please.
Are you there, Shimshon?
Okay.
Shimshon,
Shimshon might have
with us?
fallen asleep. Okay, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so the slide isn't coming up, but I want to talk to you about one of the spectacular things we find over there. We have these rooms which have little pigeonholes. So it's a large room which has on all the walls little holes in it. Okay, and it's called a columbarium. So the Jews up here have water, they've got grain, but we need something more. We want some protein to eat. So here on Masada, here we are, we have the columbarium on the right. Thank you, Shimshon. So on the right, we see the columbarium with the pigeonholes. So what they were doing on Masada, they were farming birds, pigeons. And the birds have multiple uses. And I'm going to count them all with you. I think there are 5 uses. You can all see if you've got them in your head. First one is courier messengers. So they can message to other Jews in the area about potential attacks. Be careful, the Romans are coming. That's one. Second is, of course, you can eat the birds. So up in Masada, you can do fried pigeon, you can do pigeon schnitzels, you can do pigeon pie, you can make a lovely pigeon soup, you can cook anything out of a pigeon. The pigeons lay eggs. So in Masada, you can have scrambled eggs, fried eggs, boiled eggs, poached eggs. You can have quite a breakfast. So we've got messages, we've got meat, we've got eggs, we've got lovely soft pillows from the pillows. And one final use, anybody guessing? The pigeon
Okay.
poo. The pigeon poo can be used as fertilizer for all the about 10 years ago, and I record this. And it's a Masada about the young woman who was in charge of looking after the pigeons. Let's switch the camera back to me. Okay, you with me still?
Yes.
Okay, so we've got the lovely scenery in the distance. And finally, I want to put up the last slide. So can that last slide come up, please? Last slide coming up. Okay, so finally, after the long siege, the Romans are fed up. The Romans are fed up and they decide to attack. Now, there's a very steep climb and they can't do it. Every time they got close, the Jews would throw down rocks and boulders at them. So over a period of weeks, with the thousands of slaves, they start building a ramp. And you can see that in the picture on the right. So they build up a ramp, and then finally, when they're ready to attack, they build a wooden tower. And that wooden tower then has a large hammer, and it smashes its way through the walls of Masada, and then they finally attack. And when they attack, as you have all learnt, according to Josephus Flavius, they find nobody. But according to me and current theory is there would have been Jewish resistance, which would have lasted maybe an hour. So let's cut back to me. Okay, so that's the story of Masada. So what we're going to do now, we're going to start walking back towards the cable car. And if you stay with me, you can perhaps enjoy the cable car ride. I was a bit concerned about the quality, whether we could do it or not, but we can. So stay with me, and we're going to try to get over there in 7 minutes for the cable car ride. But in the meantime, if anybody has a question, Mendy has any questions, you can ask them to me. You can type them in and Mendy will ask them. But otherwise, I want to sort of see if we can get over in sort of 5 minutes to enjoy the cable car ride down. Anybody there?
Yes, well, anyone has any questions can put it on the chat. How did the battering ram overcome the problem of Romans being able to approach Masada?
Okay. So that's basically like a tank. So that is so well protected, they would have had metal shields on it. And again, that would have been, it's a bit like taking a tank to a small battle where they're just shooting bullets at them. The stones and the arrows of the few Jews, and again, there have only been maybe 200 Jewish fighters, they would have just sort of bounced off the attack ramp. So that was minimal resistance.
Another question is, how did you get dispensation to do these tours when they're obviously closed to the public?
I know, so Masada, I'll repeat, Masada is open. Masada, in spite of the corona restrictions today, Masada is open. Israelis are allowed to move around. We're not in total lockdown yet. I'm saying yet, my wife thinks maybe by the end of the week we might be, but currently we are allowed to leave our homes and move around, but with the necessary precautions. There are limited number of people, I'm in the shade, limited number of people on each car, and you have to register and wear a mask. I'll shortly be putting on my mask as we make our way down. So we're in this other chamber, and you can see behind me the frescoes again. I want to get over.
There's a few more questions. Will you take a few more questions?
Yeah, no, keep getting the questions.
Okay. If the mountains collected the water, how are the Dead Sea Scrolls kept in good condition?
Wow. Now, the Dead Sea Scrolls are found about 100 kilometers north from here, and they weren't found in the sea. They were in caves. And it's for that reason that they were so well preserved. Again, I told you the frescoes survived. So the scrolls, which were written on parchment, are stored in caves, in sealed jars. And they are found great question. They are found about half an hour north from here. And again, they are on display in the Israel Museum. And when you're touring with me, we can actually go down and see where they were found.
Okay, another question. Do you consider the novel, The Dove Keepers, gives an accurate depiction of what happened?
I'm an honest sort of guy. I haven't read it. Okay, I haven't read it. It is apparently historical fiction. I would like to read it. I don't know if anybody has read it. I know they even made an American series, but it is sort of based on, from all accounts, I have yet to read it. I would like to, but it is based on the accounts, based on Joseph of Flavius, for bringing it to life, and there's even a bit of a romantic story involved as well. So stay with me, because in 3
Were there
minutes
ever
we'll
any
get the right.
bones of the dead found on Masada?
Fantastic question. Yes, there have been bones found down at the Roman camps and at Masada. In fact, that's a wonderful question. They in fact buried the bones found on Masada with full Israeli military honors. So on the other side, there is actually a grave, and that was created by the state of Israel in honor of the fighters of Masada. So in just 2 minutes, they'll let us on the cable car. And that might be just a nice way to finish our tour on the ride down. So just a reminder to get your blessings sent to Shimshon, and he'll get them to me. Try to do it as soon as possible. Sorry, or it's not to Shimshon, to Rabbi Groner, whose first name I forgot.
Mendy.
Mendy. So send them off to Mendy. Now, a major event happened in Australia. I know most Jews both for both Carlton and St Kilda. So a double mazel tov for my Carlton and St Kilda fans.
How did Geelong do?
No, Geelong are playing on Monday. So Geelong, as you can see, I got my hat on. So that'll be on Monday. Whew. So it was bearable, the heat. And from here, once we go down, we can have a lovely walk in the beautiful springs of Ain Gedi, in the lovely waterfalls. And that is always refreshing. And the temperature outside now would be in the high 30s. But the lovely cold fresh water is spectacular, and that will be nice to be in. So it's 1 minute to go, and I will find Our Lady. You want to say hello to Australia or no? Okay, this is a legendary lady. Your name is? Ronit. Ronit has been at Caesarea about 20 years, I'd say. Kama shanim? Until Vedapur. She's been here for 12 years running the cable car. Have you ever had a day like this, a situation with so few people? Never. Okay, so we are having our private cable car ride down, and I will let you enjoy the scenery on our way out. So normally they cram in people. Normally they cram in up to about 80 people. Now it is just Ronit, Gabriella, working on some corona investigations already, and myself. And I'll get front row, and we'll make our way down. So we have one car coming up, one car going down. Throughout the year, they come and go according to how busy they are. Now, this time of year, it's once every 15 minutes. So Ronit is just waiting for them to give us the buzz, push the buttons, and away we go down. So again, it's been my pleasure being up here with you guys. Here we go. We'll have a front row view of the way down. And just keep your eyes to the left of screen, and you can notice the Roman camps. Here we are, we're on our way down. So very popular is the hike up the Snake Path, which is the winding road described by Joseph of Flavius. But during the summer months, hang on, just a message.
We thank you and hope you enjoyed your visit to Masada National Park. We look forward to seeing you again
Okay, so you've even been greeted. So the snake path in this extreme temperature is closed to stop people from collapsing. So as one comes up, the other one comes down. So I often ask people a riddle. How do you know when you're halfway up the trip on Masada? And you're all saying, well, I don't know, or some know. It's when we pass the other cable car. So here it comes now. And often you just sort of wave at the people coming up. But today, it looks pretty empty. There it goes. Woo! So these are the valleys. So you can see that Masada really is an island. And this valley around was created by those flood waters which happened over the centuries. So we're approaching the visitor centre. And now you've got a wonderful view into one of the Roman camps. And this one has been recreated. They've built the walls up. So this is one of the 8 camps going right around Masada. So we actually got a bird's eye view into the camp. Well, that was a bonus. So that truly was a bonus. So once again, I'd like to thank you all for joining me. And I look forward to seeing you on Erev Tisha B'Av in Jerusalem. And I wish you all a good week. Stay safe, keep your masks on, and look after your loved ones. And I will see you on Wednesday.
That was superb, David. Thank you so much.
David.
You're so engaging and so interesting. Thank you so much. And we look forward
Hang on, we'll
to Wednesday night
finish.
at 8 p.m.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
It was brilliant. Thank you.
It's wonderful.
David, I need Mindy Groner's
Thank you.
Thank